The ocean has always been a source of life, culture, and livelihoods. It connects people, shapes traditions, and sustains communities across the world. Yet, today, coastlines are under pressure like never before. Rising seas, stronger storms, and human activity are accelerating erosion and reshaping the boundary between land and sea. These changes are unfolding right now on beaches across Western Australia and around the globe. Protecting our coasts has become one of the most urgent challenges of our time. Governments, researchers, and local communities are working together to slow erosion, stabilize shorelines, and safeguard both people and ecosystems. From seawalls and artificial reefs to dune restoration and living shorelines, new approaches are emerging to balance human needs with nature's resilience. Nearly 40% of the world's population lives within 100 kilometers of the coast. The choices we make today will determine not only what we protect, but what we preserve for the future. Llansillen, a coastal town north of Perth, was once defined by its sweeping dunes and turquoise waters. But in recent years, this iconic landscape has begun to disappear. Coastal erosion driven by climate change and human impact is reshaping the very edge of the town. Recreational traffic and off-road vehicles have stripped away the vegetation that once anchored these dunes. Without that natural cover, the sand is exposed vulnerable to wind and wave erosion. Rising sea levels and stronger storm surges now carry sediment away, flooding the coast more often. Between 2023 and 2025, the shoreline in front of the Sands Hotel retreated by 27 meters. The Llansillen Lookout, a beloved local landmark, was demolished in August 2025 after the ground beneath it gave way. Near the North End Caravan Park, erosion crept within a meter of the site, forcing emergency action. In August 2025, emergency barriers were laid, rock bags and geofabrics designed to hold back the sea. Backed by $150,000 in state funding, the Shire of Gingin began sand nourishment to stabilize the coastline and protect what remains.
What will Western Australia's coastline look like in 50 years from now if no major changes or measures are implemented in terms of policy?
Right, well, that's a really good question. It will depend on the location, so every beach is quite different. It will depend on other developments that will be happening around the coast, but in general you could say that with sea level rise we expect the coast to retreat. So if you don't do anything, we'd expect that slowly the shoreline will be moving backwards.
To what extent will Perth itself be inundated then, Perth and the surrounding regions?
So for Perth and surrounding areas, sort of the good thing is that they're quite situated on sort of high land, so there's not many areas that are really subject to inundation. Main areas that would be at risk for inundation would be mainly around the Swan River and the areas around Mandurah, but really, around sort of Perth, sort of coastal areas, it's not really too much of a concern.
In terms of different coastal protection methods, there's a lot of different opinions on which one is the most effective. There's your traditional hard engineering methods, there's the more ecological ones, and then there's also these hybrid ones. So in your opinion, which one do you think is going to be most effective but also most realistic as a coastal protection measure?
It really depends on the site again, and maybe some sites we just can't protect. So I'd start with thinking about, do we want to protect this area, or does it make sense to actually retreat and remove infrastructure from the coastal zone? Then there's sort of a hierarchy in which solution you might want to consider. So initially you might want to consider more or less invasive solutions like soft engineering solutions, like beach nourishment or building dune systems, and only sort of as a last resort, I guess, for some areas that you really want to protect, then hard structures would be the option. But again, it really depends on the site. It depends on how much infrastructure, how many people are protected by the specific protection works. So we'll see how it goes in the coming years.
Hard structures are among the most common defenses used to combat coastal erosion. They create a solid barrier that absorbs and deflects wave energy, reducing sediment loss and protecting infrastructure along the shoreline. Groins are built at right angles to the shoreline. They trap sand carried by longshore drift, helping to build up the beach on one side. Seawalls run parallel to the shore, forming a physical barrier that prevents waves from eroding land and property behind them. Breakwaters are offshore structures that reduce the power of incoming waves before they reach the coast, protecting beaches and harbors. But while these structures protect one area, they can disrupt natural sediment movement, leaving nearby beaches starved of sand and more exposed to erosion. An alternative is the artificial reef, an offshore barrier that mimics natural reefs. It dissipates wave energy while maintaining sediment flow, protecting the coast and supporting marine life.
Will traditional coastal protection be enough against the growing threat of erosion and rising seas? Or will returning to nature be the way forward? Ecological engineering is redefining the future of our coasts, using nature-based solutions that adapt, evolve, and protect. Dunes, coral reefs, seagrass, and mangroves all reduce wave energy and defend coastlines from flooding and erosion. Mangroves, in particular, are powerful natural barriers storing up to 21 gigatons of carbon globally, more than 3 times that of forests. Their dense roots slow waves and reduce flood levels. After the 2004 tsunami, Indonesia's Green Coast program restored 2,000 hectares of mangroves, protecting communities while supporting livelihoods like aquaculture. But nature alone isn't always enough. Hybrid designs combine natural systems with engineering. In Portarlington, Victoria, a shellfish breakwater restored over 200 cubic meters of shoreline. Along Perth's Swan River, living limestone and mussel reefs now serve as natural erosion barriers.
The ocean connects us all, shaping lives, cultures, and communities. But coastlines everywhere are under threat. Rising seas, stronger storms, and human impact are reshaping the boundary between land and sea. At the heart of this crisis lies our carbon footprint endangering homes, livelihoods, and ecosystems. No coast will remain untouched. Yet around the world, people are proving we can protect what we love, from living shorelines and seawalls here in Western Australia to restoration projects across the globe. There is hope, but hope demands action. The next step belongs to us.